All right, and welcome back. Continuing to finish the vertical stabilizer. As you can see here, I've got the doubler clecoed to the rear spar. This video, you'll see me assemble the frame and then get the skin ready. Excuse me. It's almost a completion point for the vertical stabilizer here in this video. As I'm going through, I'm a little more careful as I'm reading the instructions for obvious reasons, being that I've messed up these pieces already. So you'll see me go through and look at the instructions a few times just to make sure I'm doing what I think is supposed to be done, and then rechecking. I just go through. All of these are held together by the 1/8 size clecos. Go through, attach everything, and then just double check and make sure that everything is looking correct. Now, the vertical stabilizer itself, it's not a very long task in the instructions. I want to say it's 4 or 6 pages, maybe altogether. But a lot of this it's taken me extra time just because it's the learning step. It's the first time you're doing, for me, it's the first time I'm doing any of these kinds of machining and things like that. So getting used to the process, getting used to how the instructions are worded, and still find myself learning that lesson. As far as you read the instructions, you think you know what it's referring to, and then come to find out, oops, I really meant this other thing. So take your time as you're going through the first couple pieces, the vertical stabilizer and the rudder, to get used to how the plans are laid out, how they reference to things. There's still a few things that I'm not yet quite understanding what the instructions are trying to tell me in a few steps. So just make sure that you take the time to fully understand the steps before you proceed. That was probably the biggest reason that I've had to retry some of these steps and order new material to replace mistakes that I've made. So here, finally putting the assembly together with the new skin. So you go through and just work your way. Some people have found it easier to work from the nose or the forward end and move backwards. In this case, on the first side, I found it easier to actually work from the aft end and work forward, and just putting them in every other hole, with the exception of in this case there are 6 holes on either side that you do not dimple, and those are for attaching later on to the flange, which is the piece that basically mates the cone in the tail feather, the vertical stabilizer and the horizontal stabilizer all together. It makes it all look like one piece. I believe it's a fiberglass fairing, basically. So you want to make sure you mark those off. You don't drill them, you don't dimple them. You just basically just ignore them, essentially. And so all that I'm doing here is to set up to match drill number 40 all these holes. And then you'll see me turn it over and begin to cleco from the forward end back, and that's just because the skins are. It makes it easier with the skin tight around the forward end there. Like that. So, like I said, some people find it easier starting aft going forward, and sometimes it'll be easier going forward going aft. It's just a matter of where you can make the cleco line up and go from there. And here with the magic of editing, I've fast forwarded a little bit toward the end of all the clecos being inserted, and I'll start match drilling. So like I was saying, it's some of the skins, as you put them on, as I've watched others, it seems like you should always start from the forward end where it wraps around and be able to kind of bring the skin tighter as you cleco down. But sometimes you're just not able to get it. And so as you're working the second half or second side of the skins, where it's wrapped around, sometimes you have to find the bottom corner and just get something clecoed and then work from there. And as you're able to get clecos in, it will pull the skin around even tighter. You want to be careful, as has been mentioned before, make sure that you round off the forward end of all the ribs. If you don't, then it creates a crease at the corners of each of the ribs, and it'll become very noticeable once you tighten the skins down with the clecos. So the rest of this video is just going to be match drilling all the holes. Basically just going every hole that doesn't have a cleco, match drill a 40 with the exception of the marked off locations. And then from there it's just a matter of shifting the clecos over one spot and redoing it. And so being that all of the holes themselves in the frames were essentially already drilled to size, the only thing I'm match drilling really is the skin itself. It was a lot easier process this time around. I didn't have to disassemble the entire frame. I just cleaned up the holes that I drilled here, and then cleaned up or deburred the holes on the skin itself really well. And then the next process or next step will be to go through and dimple the skins and then get it ready for final assembly. So the next video should be the final video for the rudder, and it's going a lot faster than I had anticipated. I think I've mentioned before, I started right around Halloween, and as I'm editing this video, it's a couple days after Christmas, and I've got the rudder and the vertical stabilizer complete. I'm now waiting parts for the horizontal stabilizer. Again, I'll get into that when I get to that video, but falls back to attention to detail. So should expect to have those parts tomorrow, and then I'll start working on the horizontal stabilizer. So looking forward to getting those videos started. And again, for those that continue to watch these videos, I appreciate your following along. Like I've said before, these are mostly for me, just because I find it entertaining to put these videos together, and also just to hope that this might help somebody along the way, that might have questions about a particular step or just want to see how something is done. So I will try to include most aspects of every step in these videos. If it's something that's monotonous and something like this where it's just clecoing something together for long bits of a time, I'll try to edit most of that, because you get the idea once you've seen it done once. It's done the same way every time. But for steps and whatnot, I'll try to include as much detail as I can for those that might have a particular question or want to see how something's done as they get to that step themselves. So again, appreciate you following along. If you can, hit that like button for me. And if you got any comments, questions, or concerns, by all means, leave them below, and I will address them as I am able and get back to you as soon as I can with any follow-up on them. So we'll see you next time around.